Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief. Woohoo! It's Monday morning. Monday. Let's just make sure this is playing. I'm sure it is. We've got the mayor of Vienna for a few more days here with us, and he's driving the bus. So I know we're probably on a good footing here. How you doing this morning, Mr. Mayor?
Hey Brian, I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
Good. Looks like YouTube's rocking and rolling, so looks like you kicked butt once again. Way to go, dude. Just an FYI, the presentation we usually have by Sjord on Mondays will be put on hold as he is on vacation with his wife. He said he'll be around if there's any site emergencies, but he is busy doing the staycation with his family in Netherlands. So I hope you're having a good vacation, Mr. Sjord. If you're watching this later on, we'll say good morning, everyone, over there on YouTube. And we're going to run this daily brief just primarily off the YouTube page because so many people were having troubles with the Jitsi Hangout. With audio issues and all that kind of stuff, that it's probably best that we just, until we get our act together and are nice and clean with these daily briefs once again, I think we'll probably just work off of this YouTube page. I do notice again, and I don't know what it is with this Jitsi, but I put the heads away. And I still see the boxes there on YouTube, and actually not even we can't even see the full screen on that Jitsi page. Seems to be some background there too. So kind of a sloppy presentation. My apologies, everybody. But like I said, this is a work in progress, and if anything, I might even recommend that we spend the rest of the summer here while the market's pretty quiet, just getting our act together. So that's what our plan is. Nice to see you, Murat. Murat, are you still in Vancouver? I know Chris was kicking around the idea of getting together once again. I think he's heading out of town. And if I'm not mistaken, Sonny is in town. Just popped in from, I think he was coming from South America. So it looks like the local frivolities here in Vancouver continue. All local Vancouverites, you're probably still getting over your hangover from Andrew's rockin' party. But if you feel like it, we'll probably get together for some beverages this evening and tomorrow. On to the market. As we said earlier, it's just Alex and I this morning. So pretty quiet. And I also noticed in the stock market itself, things are pretty quiet. S&Ps, for example, you can see we're just sitting here. It's a new week. It's obviously the weekly bar is going to be pretty quiet. But there's our 4-hour chart showing a bit of breakdown here on the S&P spiders. Keep in mind that the spiders are an ETF, so the futures market did move quite aggressively overnight, but these guys, the cash market, they opened up a little bit later. We had talked a little bit about this big old gap down here need to be filling, and really, if you're going to hunt for sort of trade location, I think you probably want to try and concentrate off of these candle body lows there and there. And what do you think the odds are if we draw a reload zone? That's going to be right in there. I bet pretty high. So if we zoom back here and draw down and do our reload zones, what a coincidence. Those candle body levels are right off 78.6. So that's basically what I'm going to be looking for here over the next probably few days. It's a nice little dip back in against these lows here. International news, things are getting pretty hot over there in Hong Kong. And I had put out sort of tweets and stuff to that effect this morning. The latest news coming out of the region is the protesters swarmed and overwhelmed the Hong Kong airport, basically canceling flights, trying to bring the economy to a standstill while they encourage the local government to maybe relax a little bit on the extradition orders coming out of mainland China. I talked about this in the broiler chicken show yesterday. Let's hope. I mean, for heaven's sakes, I don't really want there to be more pain and suffering in this world. But let's call a spade a spade. I think I made reference yesterday to Sarajevo as sort of the model utopian society in the 1980s, and then when the communist collapse came in the latter part of the 80s, Yugoslavia deteriorated into just absolute chaos. With unfortunately Sarajevo becoming sort of almost like the main battlefront there. So as well, we also talked about Lebanon. Same thing, used to be called the Paris of the Middle East. Civil war just destroyed that society. So, who knows how this is going to play out? Nobody really knows for certain. But the long and short of it here is my feeling is, and we've been talking about this a lot recently, it seems to me that we have sort of almost like a flight to safety trade going on in the market. Where did I put that? Right here. Where and I even said this yesterday, it's a bit surprising, but ironically enough, that's usually the market does exactly what everybody isn't expecting. And the bond market actually is enjoying one hell of a rally right now. Sort of that flight to safety. And I would also, I would argue that, I appreciate that people are, very focused on negative yields. And oh my God, why are you going to buy bonds if you're not going to make any income off of the purchase? What I would argue right now is people are probably more interested in the guarantee of principal. And the fact, if it's a government bond like U.S. Treasuries, that it's not likely that they're going to default on the loan. And so, in a very uncertain world, people run into guaranteed investments. So I think that's more what's going on here. This is not a conversation about yields. This is a conversation about, holy shit, I'm scared. I got to put my money into any place that I know gives me an absolute guarantee of my principal. Long and short of it here, bonds enjoying one hell of a rally, and U.S. Treasuries were coming into some interesting resistance levels. But we pointed out in the Broiler Chicken show yesterday, German bonds, Japanese bonds, they're all going just absolute nuts out of the upside here. So it feels like it's almost like a risk-off kind of an environment here. And then, of course, interestingly enough, gold, it hasn't broken down per se here. Just very much like the bonds, I can't be a buyer up here, which kind of sucks. I don't see a top here yet per se. So if anything, you just got to cool your jets and just wait. Interesting. Of course, I make the correlation a lot of bonds and Japanese yen. I would argue that, especially in the light of potential deflationary spirals taking effect in the United States, the Japanese yen is now starting to catch a bid as sort of another sort of, flight to safety kind of proxy. And I think the Americans in the most recent Fed announcement said that they might even consider starting quantitative easing again. So I got a funny feeling that, and if we go look at the US dollar index, kind of waffling here, nothing really to get too excited about. This AB equals CD that we were talking about late last week seems the signal seems to have fired. A counter trend rally, close on Friday, open up Monday morning, right back into resistance. Not really thinking that there's a trade here per se, but it feels like the bears are in control here for the time being. And I suppose we could make an argument if we redraw our fibs up here off of this most recent high, 38.2s. You can still see that's a fair ways down here. We don't have that much econs coming out this week. Where are we here? Economic calendar. We've got a couple sort of leading data points coming down the pike here. We've got some interesting inflation numbers. Interesting to see U.S. core inflation basically in line with expectations. The inflation rate year over year sitting 1.6%. You can see month over month we actually ticked a little bit higher than anticipation. But the headline number actually ticked in a little bit lower than anticipation. So actually, I beg your pardon. Silly Brian. This is all tomorrow. These are previous and forecast. This hasn't come out yet. Silly Brian. Wake up! Anyway, so we also have some interesting China data coming out overnight as well. So I have a funny feeling we're going to see some fireworks here tomorrow. Interesting data coming out of Europe, but I did hear a lot of sort of talking heads saying we don't have any key U.S. data coming out this week, but I don't know. Retail sales usually drives the market. We've got productivity numbers, Empire State. So there's a bit of stuff coming down the pike here, but it looks like it's a little bit later on in the week. We should probably also keep an eye out for Friday University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment. You remember Jamie when he does those presentations, he likes to keep an eye on that. Nothing earth-shattering. We don't have any jobs reports or anything like that or Fed announcements coming out, but some interesting data to keep an eye on. Let's see, where should we go next? Probably not a bad idea while we're here and I've got time. Let's go take a quick boo at what China and Mexico and all of them are up to. Watching China. Don't get China'd. So as we sort of talked about last week, and I don't see any change to this, the long trade in Chinese stocks technically is this bot has not been broken. We did not hit move stop to scratch. So yes, we have M'd out here, but the stop on this trade I think still has to be a bit lower. And then if we actually look at Chinese currency itself, I think one of the ways they're trying to prevent the Chinese stock market from crapping out is they're devaluing the Chinese currency. It looks like we've gone to another new low here this morning. So I don't see any change in this. It was interesting through the Broiler Chicken show yesterday. Somebody had asked about the correlation between Bitcoin and China. I suppose you could make an argument this latest rally here seems to correspond with this dump. This dump here seems to correspond with this rally here, but a bit of a disconnect here. Why did Bitcoin rally here with the Chinese yuan technically moving higher here a little bit? So I don't know about this correlation so much. I again, as I sort of said there a moment ago, I really do like the idea of the Bitcoin, bonds, yen, gold, all catching a bid as sort of that Hong Kong situation plays itself out. Okay, so some people are saying they lost the video on YouTube.
Yeah, so it's good for me. I don't know.
It appears to be running on my side as well, so I'm not quite sure. Oh, Casey says he's all good now. Okay. Okay. All right, Casey. Well, good to hear that things are okay there. So I'm not quite sure how to interpret this. I mean, the good part about it, I suppose, is Willie now is technically stupid again. We're sitting minus 86 on the overbought oversold indicator. MACD did go to new lows here, though, so no divergences or anything in sight. So, at some point, this thing will find some sort of base. But I wouldn't be surprised with their devaluation and all that. We just talked about econs there a moment ago. As we said, we have some data coming out. Looks like it's tomorrow. Looks like tomorrow evening as well. So probably the market's going to be focused in on that if you are a China watcher. Keep an eye on that. Let's see. Is there anything else I wanted to just quickly throw by you? I don't think so. Okay, so we took oh, you know what's interesting, South America, I don't know whether you guys noticed, but Argentina is just getting its head handed to it this morning. Let's see, I think I have it on here. Let's see if I can just go back in time. This is an interesting stock I'm keeping an eye on. Oh, I'm getting damn close to getting stopped out on this Eastman Kodak. So, David, if you're watching this, we better respect the fact if we break 220 here, you can see we're sitting 221. If we break 220, we better get the hell out of there. No sense in taking unneeded risks here. And if this thing fails, I just want to walk away. But I wanted to show you. I don't know where I have it, though. Here it is. Boom. That would kind of suck, eh? This morning you wake up and, hey, I'm a bull. Look at here's the beginning of the year. I'm up a ton of money, and then boom. They go and take it all back in one fell swoop. Hey, there's Grim. Hey, Grim. Nice to see you, Slick. Hope you're doing better. So be forewarned, anybody that's participating in South America, any of our audience that's in South America, excuse me, from what I understand, the ruling, the leader, and I just read the headlines very quickly. I don't know the specific names, but the person that was ruling in Argentina, they had sort of a preliminary vote, and they are going to be politely asked to leave government. So just be forewarned, we might see some fireworks out of South America again. I have a feeling things are hotting up there. And really good analogy, this is probably the kind of market that we're in where you might even see, U.S. stock indexes sometime this fall do the same thing. But really good analogy of big divergences. You can see this divergence took a long time to play out. Boom, boom. That divergence is now confirmed. So we can probably even go out to like a weekly chart. Yep, there it is. So actually, it looks like on a weekly, it wasn't quite a clean cut div, but nonetheless, big M fail. Boom. See you later. On the weekly basis, Willie's stupid. Uh-oh, that's dangerous. You can see what happens when this thing gets stupidly overbought on the weekly basis. It's got to go through a period of cleanup. So, what a start to the week for all the South Americans. Boo, hiss, boo. You can also see OBV is rolling over here. So this isn't an asset that we'd be interested in buying anyway. But it's probably a good anecdote of what we should be expecting out of the market through the fall here. We might, we could very easily see, after all the dust settles, we could very easily see the U.S. stock market do the same thing, come right back down to these January lows. This top is, this market itself is very tenuous. You can also see the big long-term bear div that's trying to form. In fact, it looks like, son of a bitch. So this actually is already confirmed a massive divergence in U.S. stock values here. Willie was nice and stupid as well. Beautiful little M and OBV as well. Volume, you can see the bears waking up. Rawr, I'm a bear. Look at me. Rawr. So put it all together, we can already start to see the unwinding of this bull already. It's starting to happen. Be mindful, and especially with all the political turmoil and stuff out of China. My feeling is that they don't call it the fall for nothing. I would like to go and shop for some put options. So maybe in our TRI SOF meeting tomorrow, we can really concentrate on stocks that are setting up for puts. Might be something to consider here. The only reason why I sort of mentioned that was I happened to have Mexico on the screen as well. And of course, Mr. Trump is basically at war with anybody that he feels as though is unfairly doing well trade-wise with the Americans. Still looks to me like we could easily dump down into this trend line 1, 2, 3 tags here. Again, this isn't really a market we'd be trading right now, but let's keep an eye on it. And be mindful, if we do dump really hard, we might actually be setting up for an interesting long idea. There's the 2008 low. So interesting how markets like Mexico are actually getting pretty close to those financial asset crisis levels again. There's 10-year bull market and then now bear. That's cool to see. So, just be mindful that South America is in the spotlight right now, and things could get a little bit ugly there with Argentina unwinding. Let's see. I was interested, and I was thinking yesterday, I do like the idea of energy prices moving up here while the flight to safety trade comes back down. But until this actually breaks, I think it's probably a little dangerous to assume anything here. We had this Uber bear signal fire on the gold overnight. And interesting, look how the rally, this is actually quite remarkable. Look how the rally, like this is the New York, actually that's a London kill zone there. So London kill zone, they took it through these lows, confirmed that double top on sort of an intra-day basis, candle wicks and bodies. Then promptly rallied it up overnight. Really good example of why sometimes it's not a good idea to take a trade on a Monday. You can see that this was a bit of a trap. But also interesting, too, how we rallied up against the top end of this range and now have stalled here a little bit. So this is a 4-hour chart. If we paint this inside bar here and then fail, I think that that makes a pretty good case for gold to come down. But at present here, we could easily pop through the top here, no problem. And as I said, I don't see any resolution out of that Hong Kong situation just yet. Yesterday, things ramped up a little bit more, and probably one of the reasons why gold popped back up here and the bonds backed up here is there just doesn't seem to be any resolution out of that Hong Kong situation just yet. We were talking a little bit about the stock market just a moment ago, and I'd said that, on the futures, there were big gaps down here, and we should be hunting these candle body levels. Yes, we did have the algo go Uber bull here, but again, I think I made reference to this. I don't really like taking these trades with this massive amount of risk, because to actually justify the trade here, 2-to-1s, all that kind of stuff, we actually have to see the stock market go to new highs, and I don't even think that's realistic. I would be very interested if they can bring the market right down against these lows, and then start seeing a turn and then getting Uber signals off of tight, kind of like this tight M top up here. So I wouldn't necessarily feel too comfortable being in this wide risk window trade. I would much rather price come back down against these lows, fill in the gaps on the things like the spiders and stuff. Candle body levels like we talked about, mountain man levels. I would love to see a nice little W come in there and the algo give us a signal. So we'll just keep watching for that. I don't really see anything to get too excited about here. Same sort of thing on tech stocks as well. NASDAQ almost has almost exactly the same pattern. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I think that basically summarizes what I'm seeing. I think I showed you this a moment ago, right? Where the hell is it? Over here? Nope. Oh, maybe I got rid of it. That would suck. Was that it? Yeah. Until we actually start seeing some weakness here, I got a funny feeling this is going to be like the theme for the next little while. And I'm a little surprised that Bitcoin has not performed a little better here. It's a bit of a surprise. Okay. Didn't really see anything stock market-y that really caught my attention. There was one issue that I posted in the lounge. Keep in mind that if the stock market starts going into a malaise, then we can realistically make the argument that the pharmaceutical sector should start outperforming. And there was one little one that I saw on the screen this morning that jumped out at me. So, Zach and all our TRI SOFers, let's maybe on Tuesday, tomorrow morning, let's take a good look at this APTX. Really interesting bottom that's trying to form here. And you can see, of course, it's come down a long, long way. So, $3.58, it probably is going to get into the area where Zach and I can actually look at it for options trades going out into the future. So there's an idea for you to chew on this morning. It's not bad. And if I'm not mistaken, what was that symbol again? APTX. I think it has some half decent fundamentals. I mean, not stunning, but half decent. Let's see what we got here. APTX. 33 million out. That's not bad. Not much insider ownership. That's a little disappointing. Don't really like that. I don't like the fact that the institutions own so much. So you can see they're just bleeding money right now, but they've got a lot of cash on the books, and you can actually see that they're not carrying any debt. So basically, the book value per share is almost exactly equal to the cash on the books. So they can bleed a little bit more, with regard to earnings. I wouldn't mind, though, seeing a nice little breakout here on the charts. So, keep an eye on it. It's another biotech name, healthcare. And usually they do a little bit better when the stock market itself is kind of weak. So that's something for you to chew on if you are playing the stock market. Let's see. Nothing really to get too excited about on our list. Like I said, my Kodak trade. And I also noticed that too. That's probably not a bad sort of segue here. Let's go chart settings and what I wanted to look at. If we look at crypto stocks, these are really stocks that I would like to try and get in on. I'm just going to be really patient. There's no hurry. But the one that I wanted, that I brought to everybody's attention, I really like this HUD 8. Obviously, we can't touch it here, but cheeky little gap takes us right down to Mountain Man. There's also a cheeky gap all the way down at the bottom here. So I am going to be looking over the next few months for a nice little pullback to bottom of value, reload zones, trend line support, gap fills, all that kind of stuff to start acquiring some stock in here. But it was interesting, really good analogy of good old 50% rules, why it's a good idea to use 50% rule as a sort of a nice, keep your honest target. And you can see how that was hit, and then she quickly backed away. So too late to be a buyer, too early to be a buyer. Probably those that had open orders working at 50% levels off of buys off the bottom, way to go. But just sort of watching. And really, I kind of see that right across the board here. I don't see any of these crypto stocks that look like they're ready to turn. I am going to keep an eye on this rebonds. From what I understand, they're getting into the high-end sex toy business. Oh, God. What a mess. But anyway, I thought that was funny, the headline this morning. I was like, what? But, I mean, the thing sure is cheap enough. You can see what it did. It did a reorganization here, and the stock went absolutely bananas. And those people that did buy in here and didn't liquidate on the breakdown, they got handed a hell of a treat in here. I might argue, same thing we sort of said with the stock market, candle body highs are probably going to be great trade locations. So, that's at $11. I mean, just crazy ass numbers. I don't know whether that's realistic, but if a double bottom comes in, you can kind of see down, up, down. If we can actually, and it's good to see that it's come down filling in this gap now, but if we can fill that gap in and then turn back up, it might be worth throwing a couple bucks at. As we said, candle body highs, these are some crazy ass numbers. Could we get a rally up here to generate a free position on this thing? I think so, but we're still too early. And if we do things like divergence indications, if we zoom in, let's go like so. You can see the bull div is trying to form here. So let's let that bull div come in. Interesting that the OBV keeps working its way higher, even though these are probably classic distribution bars. If we look at accumulation distribution, it probably looks slightly different. But nonetheless, the candle body is red here because it closed lower than where it opened. But you can see that was an up day, so OBV prints up. That was an up day, OBV prints up. That was an up day, OBV prints up. So, I have to say, money is continuing to flow into this thing. So one to keep an eye on the radar screen, but I just don't see any like quote unquote trades here this morning. What I see is sort of more cleanup. All right, so that's blockchain stocks. And actually, we have a couple lists of them. Let's take a look at the other list while we're here. All right, so this is our second name. Look at that crazy overstock, just keeps going. Son of a bitch, eh? So I hit a high here, and I guess that's today, 26.46. Gee whiz. Hindsight's always 2020. I sold all of my stock, the remaining position basically at $24. So I left a couple bucks on the table. Tisk tisk. Also, too, another stock I want to keep a close eye on here over the kind of like the HUD 8. I would like to slowly build a position on Mr. Novogratz stock. I mean, right now there's nothing to do. Lower highs and lower lows defines a bear market. So just big hurry up and do nothing right now. I do also like this reload zone level. There's the original weekly double bottom breakout. There's the daily double bottom breakout. There is a cheeky little gap here, and you notice this is actually probably a really good lesson for all those people that are doing profile and would like to really try and focus in on concepts of profile. Here, I think we went above value. We came back down, tested value high. Do I want to be back in value? Do I want to be back in value? Trying to accept back into value. Now asking, okay, now value high is actually acting as resistance. And if that's the case, then probably odds are we got to come back down and fill in this whole hole here. And that kind of corresponds with what I'm sort of seeing out of crypto. I think somebody this morning even made reference to the fact that BTC dominance is still very strong, and it actually suggests a pivot into maybe the end of the year. And a lot of the altcoins just really can't buy a friend right now. We've talked lots about that. They talked about it in the Broiler Chicken show. If we look at all of these all of our fun little indexes, they're all making new lows. So there's just nothing to do here right now. Here is that dominance chart. You can see higher highs and higher lows defines a bull market. So we haven't quite M'd out here. We'd need to see a nice big fat M here to actually mark the top. And then if we look at the altcoins with regard to market cap, you can see there's just not a heck of a lot to get too excited about here. Did have a nice little W come in on this one. This is the total crypto market cap. I'm not quite sure what the difference between these two is. It's just it's eluded me right now. Sure, everybody on the site knows the difference. But we'd like to ideally see, this thing start to trend higher highs and higher lows, yada, yada, yada. But as long as this thing is still pressing higher, I just don't see anything to get too excited about there. So just sort of a reiteration. Again, this is another name where I'd be very interested in accumulating the stock, but not at these levels. Probably, half of the price that it is right now would get me interested. This hash chain looks interesting. You can see it's right down at the bottom end of the range. I think they still have just a world of stock out, though. I'd really like to hear news that they're consolidating the stock. This is cash on the Canadian Stock Exchange. So let's just go see how much is out here. KASH. All right, this is Hash Chain Technologies, and they have a total of 261 million shares out. Can't touch it now, but if they rolled it back, say like 10 for 1 or something, so there's only 26 million out, I'd be all over this thing. So we'll keep an eye on that. And the good part about it is you guys have gotten direct experience with what happens when they roll these back. The my little I guess it's off of here. Perfect example of rollback stock, cleaned up, options to directors, and pow, nice rally, free position. Way to go. The rebonds, like we said, that was an interesting example of them rolling the stock back, and it did just an absolute insane move here right out of the gate on that event. So yet another example of the rollbacks. And I would just simply say, wait for the rollback on these things, especially if it's got like 200 million shares out. There's no hurry. All right. Let's see. Anything else we want to talk about? So we'll keep an eye on this guy, but want to see a rollback. I haven't really looked too much into these others. Actually, not a bad idea. Let's take a look just stock market wise what they're seeing here. On the Bitcoin ETF, that's OTC, of course. So keep in mind this thing trades at a wicked premium to the actual cash market. But hopefully everybody can see the very healthy bull run that this thing enjoyed. I think we could make an argument that maybe this is like 38.2s. Yep, 38.2 on the nose, doink. Nice counter trend rally. I suppose you could probably make an argument that there is your trend line resistance. So it's still a little bit higher. And it was interesting because I saw somebody in the lounge post this morning that Goldman Sachs came out with an aggressive bullish target call of 13,900 on Bitcoin futures. It's not exactly what I would consider a massive rally. And it's interesting that they picked this price target, basically not expecting Bitcoin to break out to new highs, right? That high is 14,170. And I think somebody even in the lounge this morning posted that Goldman call, which I thought was kind of interesting. Yeah, here it is, where they came up with a price target of 13,971. How the hell they come up with that exact number, I'm not quite sure. But when I put it on the charts, basically it corresponds to a counter trend rally to test these highs, but not a break to new highs, which is kind of amusing. So back to our ETF review. maybe that makes sense based on this ETF rallying back up into this trend line resistance. Then we get 1, 2, 3 tags of the trend line. And then if we resolve on the other side, nice W, then away we go to the upside. If we M out and fail, then back down we go. As always, it seems these exchange traded funds are just absolutely riddled with gaps. So at some point, I do expect all of this stuff to be filled in. And interestingly enough, if we put that 88.6 fib on this chart, I think that also corresponds with a nice test of the lows. Yeah, so there's the original breakout level, big old juicy gap right in here. 88.6, basically back, pretty much back to the POC. That's what I would ideally like to see here to let me know that this market's been cleaned up. So sitting right here, can we touch this thing right now? Not really. I suppose if you are a bull, right, we've got one low. This made a new low, so we've got two lows. I'd be thinking maybe another low, especially with that gap there. So you never know in this crazy business what's going to happen. Maybe we bought out here. So we did do 33. We've got one low. We've got two lows. I'd like to see that third key low. And actually, you know, based on the steepness of this trend line, I'd actually like to see this take some time to develop. And maybe something along these lines. Yeah, that would be the ideal scenario. And if we bought these levels out, let's see what happens. So we'll just eyeball this. Yeah, that would be sweet if something along those lines happened. So we'll keep an eye out for that. You know, this is basically painting right into November, December. So I really don't expect to. Yeah, weird how I do these videos and all of a sudden the yawns and the stretches all come out. Sorry, everyone. Really don't expect a blast off here to new highs, but you never know if that Hong Kong situation really ramps up. Maybe that's what happens. Don't really have a setup per se here. Like I said, we're a long, long way off of the bottom. And if anything, I heard recently, and I think I even made reference to it in the show yesterday, I'm really proud of people in the community that hunted this setup, took this setup, kicked ass, made lots of money, and now people are like, okay, what's the next trade? Where's the next trade? And they're just like, well, there's just nothing to do here. You got to cool your jets, just relax. And really, I think that's the theme right now. You just got to relax and let this develop, especially with these gaps in here. This is very choppy price action. And gee whiz, there sure are a heck of a lot of gaps the whole way up here. So be mindful of that, everyone. Let's maybe, for fun, let's go take a look at good old Ethereum Classic. Nice counter trend rally off the bottom. Beautiful example of a really nice looking W. Breakout there appears to be about 9.5, and they ramped this thing all the way up to $48. Wow, what a move. I could make the argument that we have now come and cleaned up that egregious face rip up. We've also filled in some nice gaps here to the downside. So we can actually technically start getting interested on the long side again if you wanted to get in on this guy. Probably what we really want to do is now that we've got trade location, who can tell me if we get trade location, is what's the next thing we really want to see? Thank you, Joa. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name. I've never seen that before. Anyway, thank you, Joa Santos. A divergence. Thank you, Joseph. Somebody actually is listening to me. Imagine that. So if we throw on indicators, we don't have any sign of divergence just yet here. Willie is technically not stupid. OBV, you can see the bears are wide awake and in control. So, if you are an ETC bull, my hunch is we're going to just have to let this settle down a little bit. Off of the dailies, you can see the lows trying to develop here. And in essence, interesting how this is the top of a channel here. I think you can make an argument off the dailies that there's your double bottom somewhere around there. So let's keep an eye on this ETCG. If we can get up through, looks like about 16 and a half, then I think we're back in business. I don't really like these kind of divs though. They kind of, they don't fill me with a lot of confidence. When looking off of the dailies, you can see bears in total control. Bears, kind of losing interest, not nearly as aggressive as here. And then here, bears again, lower highs. So if we get a day where, and it actually looks like it's already come in, because I think that bar right there, that's a down bar, did 32,000. The lowest bar here was 53. So yeah, I think the bears have actually fallen asleep. So it's incumbent on the bulls now to wake up and take control of this market. If we can get a nice bull bar, let's say above, especially this high right here, 300,000, then I think this thing's got a case for a rally. So, be mindful of that. It is potentially there. And if we do just a simple trend line off of the top, boobity boo. I think you could expect if we can close above here, I think you could realistically expect to test the top of value. Probably also reload zones heading back up top. Boom. Yep, look at that. After a while, this stuff gets so cliche. So, if, obviously it's a big if, but if we can turn back up here, I think you got a pretty good shot that we're going to rally back up. Top of value, mountain man, line in the sand, down trend line. Geez, this looks awfully familiar. Didn't we just see this? I seem to recall that we just saw this on Bitcoin. So you never know. It might actually be a half decent trade idea there. So we'll keep that on the radar screen. Let's see. Anything else we want to talk about? I guess we'll leave the stock market at that. We got about 10 minutes left here. Let's go like so. Let's go like so. We'll keep that on there. Not a bad level to pay attention to. Heading over to Bitcoin. Bitcoin tastes great. As I've sort of said about 7 or 8 times today, I think there's a high correlation between bonds, gold, yen, and Bitcoin. Put that away. What did I want to show you? I guess I put it away. Just quick, we'll go sort of top down, just give you the full meal deal. Weekly charts still very much range bound. It was interesting in that Broiler Chicken show yesterday. I had made reference to this closing level here, and that was 11,469. Call it 11,470. And I didn't know, if we had closed yesterday being Sunday being the last day of the week, if we had closed below this level, then that would have probably been a bad sign. But we didn't. Yay. And actually, it's interesting when you look at this, you can make an argument that this was a higher high. So higher highs and higher lows defines a bull market. I also noticed too, and I thought this was really cool, that the 13 EMA basically acted as support there and stopped the slide. You can see, look at that, 3 days in a row just sitting right on that 13 EMA with the lows. That's so cool when you see that. And this is a weekly chart. Keep that in mind too. So the fact that we did not close below that level, we closed above that level, I actually think that it's painting this AB equals CD. AB, CD. And what that implies in my eyes is this level, the Mountain Man level of this potential Gartley, was traded to with a wick. And actually, Gartley people would rather that be a clothesline to actually like sort of mark that level. And so I have a sneaky suspicion. Again, these AB equals CDs are drawn off of the clothesline levels. I have a sneaky suspicion that they want to actually close and print Bitcoin up here at 13,500, we'll call it. So this is an interesting juxtaposition with Goldman Sachs's call of 13,900, which is basically right up in that area there, right? And this high here, like we said, interesting. So this high here was 13,888. So I'm not quite sure what market specifically Goldman is targeting, but on Stamp here, I got a sneaky suspicion that they want to print a clothesline level up here. And gee whiz, what a coincidence how that corresponds with that Goldman Sachs level. So maybe that's what they're seeing as well. Now that we have printed a new high, though, we do have to keep an eye on things like indicators and watch for signs of divergence. And you can see, yes, on a weekly basis, we did print a new high here on a clothesline, but you can see the momentum right at the moment is negligible. What I'm worried about here is we go up, we tag, and if we tag that 13.9 on Stamp, that will print a new high. If momentum does not go to new highs, then that's our classic bear div scenario. And keep in mind, this is a weekly price chart. So we still have this. You see how powerful the bullish weekly divergence was, monstrously powerful. Looks to me like that has played itself out, and now we got to keep an eye on whether this thing goes into a bear div. As it stands right now, Willie is not stupid, so maybe one more push higher on the weeklies will establish that. And then also, too, do we have signs that the bull is falling asleep? Higher high, higher high, and then, lower high, and now lower high. So if we start getting three serious bars, right now this is still a bit early to call. I think this is probably still a few weeks away. And then we get a really low buying bar that's up, then we know that the bull's fallen asleep on the weekly chart. So no signs of weekly failure yet. And as I said, I'm thinking that they need to print 13.9 area. Actually, this is 13.4 on Stamp. I'm thinking they need to print that, close it on the weekly basis at that level, and then that way the Gartley is confirmed. So we'll keep an eye on that. And also, too, I thought it was interesting that this bigger AB equals CD, boom, 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 it had this as a bullish objective. That was hit there. Now we're going to get a clothesline bullish objective right off of that exact same level. So it seems to me there's a lot of sort of anecdotal evidence to look for that move up top there. As well, too, this is a pretty wide playground. You can see where the key lows are here. This key low is 9,049. This key low is 9,111. So sitting here at 11,390 through this week, we could very easily see this lose, $400 on Bitcoin through the week. That wouldn't shock me at all. Because this candle last week, of course, made a new high and also broke out a previous high. At the very most, whatever this candle is, its signal will be confirmed next week. So if we just finish here where we are, and then next week we go through these lows, then that'll fire an inside bar failure, fractal, whatever. Obviously, the week is very, very young. We've got a long way to go here. I do find it interesting that first thing Monday morning, and again, I think this is all predicated on Hong Kong, because right now it's very tenuous over there. The bullets could start flying any minute. I think that things like Bitcoin, gold, bonds, yen, I think they're all catching a bid here. And that's sort of what I had said here this morning, right? BTC, gold, bonds, Japanese yen should catch a bid as this stuff keeps going. That's my take on what's driving price right now. There's a lot of fear, and keep in mind that if China unwinds here and it breaks into civil war and the econs are horrible and stuff, then that basically means that the whole past 10 years of what we've been talking about with China expansion and them being I have never bought the idea that it will overtake the United States economy. And I still personally believe that Japan is the world's second largest economy and that this Chinese expansion here is a fugazi. I know that's not very popular on the site. I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack for it, but that's what I feel. And I do not think that you should trust any stock market, any investment vehicle where totalitarian dictatorships are actually at the helm, because they can fuck you over in a heartbeat. And it's this kind of stuff, right? This is actually the hallmark of totalitarian dictatorships. And I don't know whether these people are going to make it. Maybe a lot of them might die before this is all resolved. This is a very tenuous situation here. So put it all together. We sort of talked about how Argentina has basically unwound the entire bull run since the end of January. Frankly speaking, I wouldn't be surprised to see the U.S. stock market. In fact, this is a weekly price chart of the S&P 500, and I've started to go and price options. And what I would like to see, keep in mind that there are still price gaps right there from the January low off this weekly chart. And if I start going and buying puts, and I'm thinking about buying the 240 puts here, that gap fill will actually generate sort of my initial sort of profit objective, where I sell half on a double, blah, blah, blah. And then keep in mind, there are still price gaps way down here at these 2016 lows. We could find, especially, if China does completely deteriorate here, it's a big if. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if it does, notice this megaphone takes us right back down to those lows. And also this high to low trend line takes us back down to those lows. It's still quite a ways away. I don't think it's tomorrow. But, the writing's on the walls. There is definitely potential. Anyway, some food for thought for you there. Okay, so back to good old Bitcoin. Like I said, and especially if this China situation in Hong Kong and all that stuff turns really ugly, I could very easily see Bitcoin pop right up top here. That wouldn't surprise me. Lower time frames, it was interesting. Yesterday, we did have some Uber bear signals fire here on Bitcoin. Even an Uber bear fired here on the futures right out of the gate this morning. They gapped lower. Hopefully, everybody on the site can see these very well-defined M's. And really, for all the level oneers who just finished their program, hopefully everybody can see what do markets in transition look like? Hopefully everybody can see that really cute little triangle. And also, too, now below these trend lines here. So a little bit dangerous here in the short term. Like I said, you notice this big gap here at 10,500. Through the week here, as we're sort of playing around, I could very easily see Bitcoin work its way back down against fill in these gaps, key support, all that kind of stuff. The one thing that sort of surprised me, though, is you can see Uber bear, Uber bear, Uber bear. We did have an Uber bear fire on Stamp on the, and I like to follow Stamp as sort of the cash proxy here. You can see that Uber bear did fire on this big breakdown here. So, we sort of talked about this recently, and that's off of this chart. Who was going to win this battle? Was Mountain Man going to win this battle, or was Brian and his crazy bot going to win this battle? I hate to say it, guys, but it sure looks to me like Mountain's winning here. Because this bull div has come in, though, And maybe we should, I don't know whether we can or not, but let's see if anybody can remember. If you're a bear and you see a big bull divergence come in, what should you do? No, nobody? Nothing? Oh boy, that's not a good sign. Absolute crickets over there on YouTube. 57 people and not a single response. Oh boy, that's dangerous. And not even the OGs. Usually the OGs answer this question. But if you see a bull div and you're a bear, you should just cool your jets. If you are a bear and you'd like to be bearish and you'd like to be short, you have to wait for this divergence to play itself out. That's what you got to do. It's just that simple. And we're doing counts here for maybe a bot does come in. It's a big if right now, but at the very least, I think all the bears have just simply got to cool their jets while this plays itself out. And that's sort of the kind of the market state that I think we're in right now. As I'd said earlier, Hong Kong issues sort of holding a bid in the market, and the higher time frames, like trade location, triangle failures, algos, they're all pointing down. But I think while this div is still playing itself out, you just got to cool your jets. And that's sort of what I'm thinking right now. Yes, we've had some bearish action. We did have algos go bearish, and I suppose if you had shorted this M, let's see, that would be, just let's say eyeball it right there. Gonna risk against this high, something along those lines. You got to be shooting for 2-1, which takes us right down into that area there. And gee whiz, that's basically just going to take us back to the big fat round number. So, had you taken that, then you'd just be short, and there's nothing really else to do. You're just sitting there short. If you're hunting new shorts, I think you want to just cool your jets and wait for that to resolve itself, the divergence to resolve itself. This could very easily M out, and then, we continue lower. That wouldn't surprise me, but you have to wait for this to play itself out. All right, I think that basically summarizes the market here this morning. I hope you enjoyed that presentation. I gave you lots of different things to chew on, some stock ideas. And, for our little club meetup, gave you a new pharma name for us to chew on. Don't really see a heck of a lot going on in stock market wise. Like I said, stocks themselves are pretty weak here this morning. So I think it's actually a pretty quiet Monday morning here. But hope you enjoyed the presentation. I think we'll leave it at that. We're past the top of the hour. Have yourselves a great day, everybody. All the best, and bye for now.